Got a question for you today. Have you ever heard of something called acetylene 2 carboxylic acid? No? Well, I hadn't. And have you ever heard of cannabinine? Right, I hadn't either. Well, now I have, now you have, and now that I looked into some research after hearing this term, I am amazed about these amino acids, because those are amino acid, not being on everyone's radar, because they absolutely should. 2, sure as never before will ever put anything in my mouth containing any of those amino acids. And 3, I'm quite confident that these are highly related to my autoimmune disease. So you want to learn more? Keep watching, because this is going to be an in-depth kind of science-y type of explanation. You know, I can say I don't want to look into this, I don't want to kill my garden I worked years to build, because this is just all bullshit. But I decided to say, oh my god, is everything I know wrong? Hi, I'm Andrea, and this is the Carnivore Chronicle, where I journal about my path, hopefully towards health. After being on a carnivore diet for 8 months, I've been diagnosed with an incredibly rare autoimmune disease called C3 glomerulopathy. I'll never be able to say it correctly the first time, or glomerulonephritis. It's an autoimmune disease where one of my component 3 proteins attacks my body, which therefore is an autoimmune disease. I do not have cancer. I get lots of comments of people giving me suggestion on how to treat cancer. Maybe it's because I am using a metabolic protocol developed by Dr. Thomas Seyfried, which is primarily used for cancer treatments, but it's also used for epilepsy and to reset your metabolism. And this is what I need. I need something to reset my metabolism. So this channel is about my tries, my successes, and my fails on how to do this, because this, as I said, it's an extremely rare disease. Most people are not even allowed to have kidney transplant that have this disease, because the autoimmune disease would attack the kidneys again once transplanted. It has nothing to do with eating or not eating meat, because the protein that is attacking my body has nothing to do with meat. So before you tell me not to eat meat because I have a problem with a protein attacking my system, get over it. That's not why. And I have been carnivore for about 8 months, more or less, probably a little bit more. And in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, I've switched to a cleaner lion diet and more strict diet, because that's when I discovered to have the autoimmune disease. By the way, I've had this autoimmune disease for years. It's been years in trying to find out what my disease was. I am a neuroscientist. I'm a licensed psychologist in Italy and the United States, where I worked profusely as a neuropsychologist first and a psychotherapist later in the United States. Specialized in addiction and rehabilitation of the nervous system when it's been damaged by neurodegenerative illnesses like Parkinson or dementia, or by something like horrible tumors like glioblastomas or other stuff that impair your neurological function. That was what my studies were about, and that's what I worked in. So I am quite familiar with science and research. I did a dissertation on the neural substrates in bilingualism and decision making using a functional magnetic resonance. After my dissertation and my thesis, I left research because my research was used incorrectly to publish on Nature Neuroscience by my relatives. And so I have a problem with ethics, and so I had to give up my dream of becoming a neuroscientist and a researcher, because I could not accept those two things together. So I'm also autistic, and up until a few months ago I would never been able to do this, because my autism prevented me from being able to expose myself in any way because I suffered from extreme anxiety and panic attacks, sensory overload coming in all possible forms. And as probably my autoimmune disease progressed, my autism symptoms became worse by the year. Since I've been carnivore, most of my autistic symptoms have literally disappeared. Both the physical, like gut problems, which I still have some, but 80% improved from before carnivore, and my neurological sensitivities have improved to an extent that I have never lived before, not even as a child. And my anxiety and my panic attacks are almost at level 0. I say almost because I still wake up with anxiety or panic attacks in some nights, but I believe it's more related to my autoimmune disease because I feel it coming when I do not feel well. A panic attack, or an anxiety attack, I should say, because it's not so intense, follows that. So this is me, this is what this channel is about, and today we're going to talk about non-nutrient amino acids that take the place of our endogenous nutrient amino acids, which has nothing to do with essential or non-essential. This is non-nutrients, meaning they serve nothing in our body and they should not be in our body. And I had never heard of them until last night. So what happened last night? Last night, after doing my usual bunch of research trying to crack the system of autoimmune diseases because the information we have really sucks. There is this idea, and I'm not calling it a theory, I'm calling it an idea on purpose because to me it's just an idea, because I might be a scientist underneath, I might have degrees, but I'm primarily a human being, and in this case a human being sick with an autoimmune disease. And the idea that autoimmune diseases are just because our autoimmune system suddenly wakes up in the morning, maybe because it got too drunk, I don't know, the day before or something, didn't get enough sleep, decided to attack itself. Now, considering that everything in life is biased for health and for life, that never made sense to me. It didn't make sense 20 years ago when I was still in academics, and it doesn't make any sense to me right today. And maybe I discovered something that would explain it a lot better. And for that, I have to thank Dr. Ken Berry. As I regularly do, I went to scroll in his channel and look for interesting information. And obviously, I was looking for something on autoimmune disease. And I found one of his old videos, I think 3-4 years ago, where he talks about these non-nutrient, non-protein amino acids. For those of you that don't know, amino acids are nothing less than the tiniest part of a protein. We take amino acids, we put them together, and we make proteins. That's how our body is built in part, right? With fats and other stuff. And I discovered there's what's called non-nutritious amino acids, non-nutrients, sorry. And guess where they're coming from? Plants. Guess what plants use them for? To protect themselves, mainly to kill the bugs that are trying to eat them, and mainly to kill ruminants that are trying to eat them. So watch out, vegans, because you fall into the category of a ruminant trying to eat plants. I know it's a joke, I'm not coming after you. I was vegan and I was vegetarian too, so I totally understand. Anyhow, let's see. First thing first, we just don't know what the hell we don't know. We don't know it. I have spent the last 8 months, I would say, since carnivore, but I actually had been looking into finding a solution for my ailments way before becoming carnivore. That was actually the reason why I became carnivore. I live on land. We had wonderful organic biodynamic garden here with every possible diversity, run as natural as possible with only homemade kitchen scrub, chicken poo amendments. So perfection, right? The dream of every vegetarian or vegan person, to live off of my land and everything else. And I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. Sicker to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I was so weak. I was so sick. I was in so much pain. I was contemplating suicide. Trust me, I didn't want to die because I wanted to die. I wanted to die because I could not stand my condition, my pain, and my inability to be part of any part of life. So I was already researching. But since I became carnivore, I increased my research. And that was because of two factors. The first factor is that I got even more interested and I got a glimpse of hope. Maybe I can feel better. But most of all, because my brain started clearing. My excessive brain fog, the inability to finish one single sentence without rereading it 4 times, without even having an idea what it was talking about, that started disappearing. With that disappearing, my anxiety started disappearing. My inability to do things, my pain, my fibromyalgia pain went away in a few weeks. And that obviously gave me strength, gave me hope to go on. I thought I was on the right path, so obviously I started studying more. But I have never once stumbled upon this non-nutrient amino acids. And apparently Dr. Barry had never heard of them either, which makes me feel obviously a lot better if someone like him had never heard of them. But it's unbelievable. I've been looking into them last night. I've been looking into them today. There's enough research to say that's definitely the case. I mean, no one is saying, oh no, that's not what they do. Everyone agrees on their effect and that they're toxic for us. Absolutely toxic for us and toxic for other mammals. What some people do not agree is in trying to find ways to make them not toxic. And humans have come up with a lot of things. And mainly those researchers are funded by the agro industry because they know they're damaging even livestock. Like giving beets and beet products to livestock is damaging them because also not only of oxalates, but also because of these non-nutrient amino acids. And one of these is called azidan 2 carboxylic acid. And the other one is canavanine. And they both do something really interesting. They get misincorporated into our protein when we eat them because they are very similar. So azidan, or called AZ, something like that. This is a short term for them. The AZ one is similar to L-proline, which is an amino acid that we need and we're made of, whereas the canavanine is similar to arginine, which blew my mind. They're so similar that our body can mistake them for the correct one, put them inside of our proteins to make protein. Because remember, amino acids are the tiniest part that make up proteins. And so we have these new proteins made with the wrong bricks. And that is how plants try to kill the ones that are trying to eat them, by making them sick. Some bugs that are small die very soon. Other mammals that are bigger take more time to die. Some bigger mammals obviously take longer to die because it's not like I give someone cyanide and they die immediately. This is a much subtler intervention. I mean, imagine you have a whole bunch of cows grazing somewhere and they come up these plants that don't want to be eaten and they're all there because they don't know how bad it is. They eat them all 2, 3, 5 days, a month, and they move on. Guess what? In a few months, they all drop dead somewhere else and they will never go back and eat those beets again. Quite clever. Because if a cow or any other ruminant were to drop dead immediately after eating something, the other ones would not eat it because they would see it and not eat it. So acting fast can be very counterproductive. Plants have time. Plants are a whole rain. They're not like us, like someone is trying to kill me, I kill you back. They have time, and they don't work as a single entity. They work as a whole. They're connected. They're all one. They try to survive as a group, contrary to humans that try to survive as an individual. So this is the defense mechanism, and they do it by fooling our system to use them and incorporate them, which is really bad. So one of the things I want to read you is from PubMed: cell death and mitochondrial dysfunction induced by the dietary non-proteinogenic amino acid L-azitidine 2-carboxyl acid, or for short AZE. Let's see what the abstract says. In addition to the 20 protein amino acids that are vital to human health, hundreds of naturally occurring amino acids known as non-proteinogenic amino acid or non-nutrition amino acid exist and can enter the human food chain. Some NPAAs are toxic through their ability to mimic protein amino acid, and this property is utilized by plants to inhibit the growth of other plants or kill herbivores. Now, if you're vegan, you consider a herbivore. So these plants want to kill you that way because they don't want you to eat them. AZ enters the food chain through the use of sugar beet, Beta vulgaris, byproducts as feed in the livestock industry, and may also be found in sugar beet byproduct fiber supplements, or just said easily, sugar beets. Sugar beets have AZ in there, and also the other all beets, pretty much all beets, because if you look, all beets contain this AZ amino acid. In light of this, they examined the toxicity of AZE to mammalian cells, and they showed a decreased viability of AZE-exposed cell with both apoptotic and necrotic cell death. So the cell can't die, it can't be taken apart, it can't be recycled, it can't go through its normal cycle. This was accompanied by alteration in endosomal and lysosomal activity, changes to mitochondrial morphology, and a significant decline in mitochondrial function. Our mitochondria are more important than our heart. For those that don't know what the mitochondria do, they're just our power station for everything to work correctly. In summary, the results show that AZ exposure can lead to deleterious effect on human neuron-like cells and highlight the importance of monitoring human AZ consumption via the food chain. Now really, this is on PubMed. We've known this forever. This was published in 2019, but there's some that are all the way to 28. And there's just so much. It's just insane. It's just insane. We'll hear already so many answers if you just look at it. So the problem with incorporating these amino acids into our proteins is that they create slightly different proteins. Slightly different proteins means slightly different outcomes, that our body probably can't use it exactly the same thing. Think of cars. You take an engine out and you put part of an engine in that is not from that car. You might get away with it for a while, but over time you could get some really big problems in the car. It could eventually stop working, even for just a little part that is different. So in time, obviously these proteins, if you keep giving it these wrong building blocks, become more and more and more. And so the damage becomes more extensive, which just makes sense. So our immune system is not overreactive or lost its mind. It's actually just doing its job, spotting something that should not be there and attacking it. The point is that what should not be there is part of what should be there. Like that car part that is foreign, it's not the original part, but it is in an original car. So it's not the immune system's fault. So curing an autoimmune disease is not about shutting down the immune system, which is something that's happening. They're trying to do with steroids, with chemotherapy that, gosh, it's horrendous. To kill our immune system, which is so important to us. But it's to get rid of the parts that actually do not belong there, which is what our immune system is trying to do. Which is why I would never ever eat any of these plant materials again. When I started Carnivore, we kept some things in our diet as spices. We would put some onions in the stew just with the broth and then take them out after cooking. We would not eat them, but we would just have them in there for flavor. Now I'm discovering that these components are present a lot in onion and garlic, even juices. So I probably kept eating them all these months on Carnivore, thinking that it doesn't matter, it's just some juice, it's just some flavoring. Wrong. I was wrong again. I didn't know what I didn't know. It's crazy. So this process of having these similar amino acids put in place of our original amino acid could potentially explain every autoimmune disease. It just depends probably on where they're put primarily. Maybe, I don't know, it depends on when you've eaten those components or the period of life, what had to probably be built in that moment. I don't know why, but this would explain literally all autoimmune diseases at once, because you have pieces that are not natural to your body inside of pieces that are part of your body, and your immune system attacks them. In my case, my kidneys are being attacked, and attacked really heavily. Like I have fibrosis and I have necrosis in my kidneys to a certain extent already, which means that this process has been going on for a while. For everyone, please don't tell me that Carnivore has caused this. As I said, I've had this way prior to Carnivore. What my problems were is what led me to the Carnivore diet, which improved my health tremendously. I'm just not over the bump. And this new information could give me immense knowledge to be able to focus even more, going down to only ruminants that have in some ways found ways to eliminate those components. So their meat has a lot less. And all the meat I've been buying lately is either game or meat from pasture raised, like literally up here in the mountain, just going around beef, because they're free from these components, completely free. So if I stop putting even one of these amino acids inside of my body, eventually in time, and linked with fasting, that will create more apoptosis in my body and therefore break down those proteins that do not work, thanks to my severely active immune system that is attacking them. Once I have exchanged all those amino acids for the correct one that I'm giving it through my diets, in theory, I should be healed, at least from the autoimmune disease. And once my autoimmune disease stops attacking my kidneys, then I can start healing my kidneys. Which kidneys heal, don't worry, they do heal. If you've heard that they can't heal, that's just pure bullshit, because there's so many people that have healed their kidneys. Before getting to all of it, I obviously have to heal all of my guts, which are 80% healed from how I feel, but not yet completely. Also, in that regard, I've learned a lot about lectin lately. I knew about lectins, I had looked into lectins, but I have never gone into details. I've gone into details and I'm once again shocked that there's any human on this planet that is willing to eat legumes or high lectin plant food, because what they do is unbelievable. I mean, literally, they do one and one thing only, mainly, I should say, not only, but mainly. They want to reach your intestine to take apart that one cell layer that protects it from everything else in your body. They mimic also, they're good mimickers, they mimic other signal cells, they attach to it, mimic another cell that tells it to open, and then they go into your system. And from there, they can attack anything. They can go into your brain, they can go into your heart, and everywhere. So people that are allergic to peanuts, that have an extreme reaction to just like 1 micro drops of a peanut oil, they should be the example for all of humanity, because they're just showing in an extreme way what will happen to each and every one of us over time if we keep eating that food. It's like someone that is allergic to a cigarette would have an extreme reaction. I smoked for 10 years and I thought I'll get away with it because, I didn't get cancer with my first cigarette. Over time, I couldn't run, I couldn't do a million other things. I was constantly coughing, and then maybe I thought, maybe I should look into it. Maybe it's really not good. Maybe they're right. So the fact that something takes time to kill you or to make your life miserable doesn't mean it won't happen. It will. It just will happen. Is the carnivore diet the only diet? I don't know yet. I really don't know. I have acres here where I planted fantastic food because I thought I wanted to sustain ourselves and I wanted to be healthy and I wanted to make the planet healthier by having a very diverse and biodynamic environment here. I'm never going to eat 99% of those things for sure. Will I ever never have a carrot? I don't know. As far as I know, carrots are not that bad. Maybe I'll bite into a carrot one day. Will I never have a fruit? I probably will. But I will have fruits only from my trees that are tiny here because we live in the desert. So I'm not letting them get big because we do not have water. So I'll keep them the way they do stuff. And I will only eat them when they're completely mature. Because when they're completely mature, they will not have almost any lectin and almost any oxalates. Because that's what a mature fruit does. Whereas the fruit that are harvested from intensive agriculture, they're super frozen, put in bags and sent all over the world, and then they're put into extreme environments to change their color, not their ripeness. Just their color, so they fool you that they're ripe. That's why they don't taste like anything. You eat them, they're full of lectins and they're full of oxalates and they're full of different other things that are more specific to specific fruits, but those are two things that you will probably find in each and every one of them that is not ripe, which is pretty much 99% of what you buy in the store. I think we should really stop this war between carnivores, half carnivores, vegan, vegetarian, half vegetarian, keto war. I mean, you look at the YouTubes and sometimes I feel like going into a war zone, like I have to protect myself from what I might find. And I want to find that content because I do want to learn from everybody else that I find out there, even from vegan or vegetarian, because everyone has its own experience. I have been in every single diet you can think of. Now keep that in mind. My carnivore was the diet I said I would never go on because I thought it was absolutely insane and against everything. Just put whatever in there. I probably thought it or I probably said it. But when you're in your deathbed, you do not get to choose that much. You just end up one day say, I'm gonna try that too, because that's where I was. How am I doing now? Today, I'm doing good, which is why I'm recording this video today, because I don't know how I'm gonna do even 2 hours from now. Yesterday, I woke up and I was doing okay. In the afternoon, I was crying on the couch because I could not even get up to go to the bathroom. I felt really shitty yesterday, and that's how my life goes. I have moments where I feel fine, and then literally the next moment I could have to sit on the ground. Like literally right now I feel fine. I could get up to go to the kitchen, get a glass of water, have to sit down midway, sit on the ground for 10 minutes and catch my breath. Because my energy levels are all over the place. My kidneys are all over the place. Their function is really low. And probably I'm going through a lot of healing, a lot of adjustments, and that takes a toll. Healing hurts. Trust me, I've spoken to so many people that had terminal illness. I've watched so many videos of people that have come back from terminal illness, and anyone that is honest will tell you healing hurts. Healing is painful. Healing is lonely. Healing is... Healing makes you so vulnerable. So vulnerable. There's nothing more vulnerable than sitting on the ground and having to call for help because you can't get up. Like, there's nothing more vulnerable than being in the car and feeling that you're about to have an attack of diarrhea and you don't know what to do because you're nowhere close to a toilet and you were feeling perfect 5 seconds ago. And in literally a few seconds, you have that feeling that you know exactly what it's going to mean. And you're on a highway and you don't know what to do. And you know what that can mean. I have literally had to stop the car on the highway, open the door, and empty myself because otherwise I would have had to do it in the car. And if that does not make you vulnerable as a human being, does not make you feel like all the things you thought were important about life are just not important anymore, because life, literally the essence of life, has just become so much more important. You know, I grew up eating beets in so many forms that contain this AZ amino acid. I grew up eating bread, butter, and what is called sugar beet syrup. It's a thing they eat in Northern Europe. My mother comes from Northern Europe, and for them, after the war and all the starving, all the sugar things were like Christmas every day. So obviously she gave them to us to make us feel that we were nourished and happy and fluffy and fat. I never got fat even on that because I'm a super hyper metabolic human being. But I did eat those. Beets contain these components more than any other thing there is. And beets contain a ton of oxalates. So telling me that food does not influence our brain, our mind, our thoughts, our perception, the way we communicate with ourselves and others, is just sheer bullshit. I mean, there's so much evidence about that. And the evidence is not just me. I'm one person. Yeah, I could be a crazy freak. So science is rigged, very rigged. But all of humanity is, we all are. Science is just, you know, be it science, be it politics, be it medicine, be it whatever you think, it's all the same. It's all us. Everything is a symptom of how we relate to the world, how we relate to ourselves. You know, I can say, I don't want to look into this. I don't want to kill my garden I worked years to build because this is just all bullshit. But I decided to say, oh my God, is everything I know wrong? Was I wrong for so many years, preaching to other people to do as I did? Yes, I was. I absolutely was. And I have physical proof because 8 months ago, I was unable to leave my bed. Now, I do have to sit down, but I can leave my bed. And I also, sometimes when I'm on a really good day, go on small walks with my dogs and enjoy life almost in a memory of what I used to do before getting really sick. I have my proof. You don't need my proof. Whatever you decide to do, whatever you're having, the only suggestion I can give you is to look for your own proof. You want to look into the carnivore diet? Perfect. Look into it. I believe that anything that takes toxins out of your diet will help you. I am 100% sure that you have to take anything sugar and carbs out of your diet. If you don't want to go zero carb, I understand, but do very low carb. Reset your metabolism because that is so important for so many illnesses. I mean, look at me. I have a terminal illness. I'm metabolically super healthy. which is why I think, and that explains why I'm still not healing, because it's not my metabolism that is sick. I have, most likely, these similar amino acids within my proteins that my immune system is attacking. And now I have to work on being very patient and wait for my whole body to change those parts, to get rid of them and put the right ones in. And then I'm sure I'm going to heal. It's hard, but I have new hope. So, and it's not just that. I have something else now, which I never thought I would have. I have your support. I've received, I think, some 80 comments in the last week. And I would say 70 of these 80 comments were of support. And I wish I could talk to my wife. She could explain to you how I react to those, because that's part of my autistic inability to express it, I think. Like, I don't know how to tell you how grateful I am to that. I am so grateful. I read these comments and I almost feel detached from them, because you're giving me so much warmth with your support and so much hope, not in just what I'm doing, but in humanity at large, that I just want to go on doing this. I just want to keep saying, like, oh my God, I have to go on. If not for me, for everyone. Maybe there's someone else out there. Because I do this when it becomes too intense for my emotional system. I try to direct it somewhere else. I try to, I'll do it for someone else, which I know I have to learn to do it for myself. But I do it for myself through you and through your support. And I don't know, I probably made a mess with this explanation, but this is something I really struggle with. Emotions is something I struggle with. The bottom line is thank you. Thank you. I'm so freaking grateful to each and every one of you, every comment, everything, because I feel that what I'm sharing is helping others and it's helping myself too. And if I can get through this with more support and more smiles and more moments where I think, okay, I feel like crap, but I can do this, it's thanks to this amazing community of people that I've never seen. And I would so like to really say thank you to you, to especially you, because you've given me that sentence, that word, that heart, that support. And it's just, thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope I have some cool stuff for next time too.